I'm Narendra Verma once again before you. As you know very well that recently we have started chapter number 6 in Business Studies for Class 12 CBSE syllabus, that is staffing, right? So in today's session what we are going to discuss, we are going to have discussion on process or steps of staffing. In previous video I told you that staffing is not a single stroke activity, it is a process, alright, and a process involves various steps. So in today's video we are going to have discussion about all these steps of staffing. Alright, so before starting let me have a bit discussion about its requirement. See, so often people consider that staffing is required only once in the organization. When you start a new organization, then you need to hire the people and only for that staffing process is required. It's not like that. The process of staffing continues all the time in the organization. The bigger the organization, more frequently the staffing process is exercised, right? Already we have discussed in the previous video when I was explaining the meaning and definition of staffing that staffing doesn't mean only the hiring the people or filling the post, right? It also involves training them, providing them compensation, okay, and so many other activities, right? So in an organization what happens, may be possible an employee retires and definitely another person has to be put on his position so that the job position can be filled. For that staffing is necessary. Okay, apart from that, sometimes the organization plans to expand, then in that case also the staffing process has to be exercised. Okay, apart from that, as many employees have been hired, okay, their continuous training and development keep on going on. For that also the staffing is required. Okay, in the big organization there is the separate department called human resource department, okay, which takes care of the entire process of staffing. Okay, but right now we are considering that the small or middle level organization which is not having the separate department, okay, but this process has to go on. Understood? Alright, so without wasting much time, let's start. So here are the steps of staffing. The very first step is estimating manpower requirements. Second, recruitment. Third, selection. Fourth, placement and orientation. Fifth, training and development. And then performance appraisal. And then promotion and career planning. At last, compensation. Alright, let me tell you one more thing about these three, which are there at last. Okay, if a company is not maintaining the separate HRD, means separate human resource department, then these three are also included in the process of staffing. Okay, and in case the company is having separate human resource department, then under staffing only these 5 steps are counted. Okay, so but I'm explaining you, already I told you that I'm considering that in a small or middle level organization we are going to exercise the function of staffing. So in that case we'll have to follow all these 8 steps. Okay, let me tell you one more important thing about it. Okay, recruitment, selection and training and development. These are the 3 important elements of staffing, and in your syllabus these have been discussed in detail. So we'll be having discussion on these 3 in detail in further videos. In today's video we will talk about these in brief. Understood? And for rest of the steps we will be having the detailed discussion. Okay, so this was all about the overview of it. Now just to remember all these steps in the same sequence, because as these are steps, these have to be followed in the similar sequence. Okay, so just to remember that I have prepared a code. Alright, I just write it down. So this is the code. Eventually Rahul saw postmen technically posting postcards. Like I have always told you that the codes are supposed to be unusual, unique, uncommon, so that these leave impression on your mind for a longer period, right? So you have to imagine a story. There is a boy, okay, and he thinks about the postman. Okay, he keeps on thinking what they do, how they do. Okay, so at last, at the end of the day, okay, what happens? He sees a postman, but technically, what was happening? The postman was posting the postcard. However, that is not the job of the postman. The postman job is to deliver the letters, right? But he saw the postman posting the postcards. Okay, so the unusual situation, imagine that. Okay, eventually means at the end, okay, eventually Rahul saw postman technically posting postcards. Okay, unusual one, but remember it. Okay, how it is going to help us in remembering the all 7 steps, I explain you. This E stands for estimating manpower requirements. This R stands for recruitment, and this S stands for selection. P stands for placement and orientation, and this T stands for training and development. This P stands for performance appraisal, and this P stands for promotion and career plan. And at last, this C stands for compensation. Alright, so eventually Rahul saw postman technically posting postcard. By this code, you can remember all these 7 steps together. Fine. Now let's have discussion about these all steps one by one. Let's start with very first, estimating manpower requirements. So before proceeding further, let me tell you one thing. This manpower means human resource, okay, or you can call it workforce, or you can call it personnel, or you can call it employee. These all words are same, okay, manpower, fine. So but here the point is estimating manpower requirements. So by this term you can understand the meaning. Just to have the estimation of the manpower means human resources required. Okay, means what happens? It's not like that right now they need a person will be available. Okay, they have to have estimation in advance. Say for example, a person in the organization is going to retire after 2 months. Okay, so they'll have to plan to fill that vacation now. Okay, it's not like that when he gets retired, then the post will remain empty for a period and then they will decide. So in that way, the organization is going to suffer. The work will be hampered. Understood? So for that, they have to plan, and for planning, they have to have estimation in advance. Because if the organization size is bigger, then they have to have this estimation at very large level. Okay, so they'll have to estimate the requirement of the manpower in various sections, departments, positions. All right, so this step, the very first step is this, and this involves forecasting and determining the manpower needs in the organization in future, right? Okay, means in coming time, how many and what type of employees will be required. Okay, it determines the number and types of employees required in the organization at a particular time. Okay, now one more thing, it translates the manpower requirements into job description and desired profile in terms of qualification, skills, experience, etc. Means that it also involves that what are the duties and responsibilities of a particular post. Say for example, there is a post of assistant manager. Fine. So what are the duties and responsibilities of a assistant manager? Fine. One point that comes under job description. Okay, means the person who holds this position, what he is supposed to do. Fine. And it also includes explaining the specification, means desired qualification, skills and experience for the same post, right? Means an assistant manager should be having what qualification? He should be graduate, postgraduate, he should be having particular diploma, certificate, okay, or certain year experience, certain skills, etc. as per the job position. Understood the point? Okay, so overall, this job description and specification comes under the ambit of estimating manpower requirements. Okay, certain kind of analysis are carried on under this step. Okay, and out of those analysis, there are two analyses which are there in your syllabus. So we need to have discussion about that. Okay, first is workload analysis and another is workforce analysis. So often the students get confused between the two. So let's have discussion about these in very detailed manner so that you may not get confused. Fine. So workload analysis, let's understand it first. It determines the number and types of employees required in the organization, okay, to achieve the organizational goals, and it is always related to future. Fine, because it determines the number and types of employees, means how many employees are required and what types of employees, means at which positions the employees with what qualifications we need, right? So that determination is done under workload analysis. Okay, let me explain you in detail. Workload, what do you understand by workload? Okay, means the amount of work, okay, that comes under workload. So very first we'll have to have the idea that how much is the workload. According to the workload, we can determine and estimate the number of employees and types of employees required to perform all those amount of work that we have estimated. Okay, so this workload analysis talks about determining the types and number of employees required to achieve the organizational goals. Understood the point? Now let's talk about workforce. Workforce means already the human resources. Okay, so it talks about number and types of employees working in the organization right now, or we can better define it. It determines the number and types of employees available with the organization. Okay, so it talks about present. Fine. Okay, because until unless we have how many people we need and how many we are available with, we cannot decide how many people we need to hire from outside. Understood the point? Okay, say for example, I just explained, there is the small organization and they have estimated that they need 20 employees. Okay, and right now they have only 12 employees. So now they have come to know they are understaffed with 8 employees. So they will focus on hiring the 8 employees. Understood? This is very simple example I have given. Okay, the example can be more detailed, like these 20 employees with different specifications on different posts. Okay, and this analysis will also talk about that. Say for example, let's divide it. Okay, suppose we need 10 assistant manager in marketing department, okay, and 5 assistant manager in purchase department, okay, and 5 supervisor we need. Fine, and right now what is the position? That is what the estimation, that how many we need, how many are required to complete the workload or the organization goal. Okay, now how many we are with right now? Say for example, we have right now 8 assistant manager in marketing department, okay, and 3 assistant manager in purchase department and 1 supervisor we have. Okay, now what we need to do? We need to hire 2 assistant manager for marketing department, okay, and see 5 we need, 3 we have, so 2 assistant manager for purchase department, okay, 5 supervisor we need but 1 we have, so 4 supervisor we need. So this is the process. So we need to come to know about this, that how many we need to hire, but for that this analysis has to be done. First of all, workload analysis means how many and what types of employees are required, okay, to complete or to achieve the organization goal. Fine. And then how many and what type of employees we have right now. Okay. After that, we come to know that we are understaffed or overstaffed. Okay, this is the example of understaffed. The situation can be overstaffed as well. Means we need 20 people and we have 22 people. So that situation will be known as overstaffed situation. Fine. So this analysis, whether it is workforce analysis or workload analysis, these two analysis somewhere help us to know whether the organization is overstaffed or understaffed or optimally staffed. That is also possible that we need 20 and we have only 20, then no further filling process will go on. Understood? Okay. So in every organization, optimal staffing is necessary. For that, the staffing is done. Okay. If it is overstaffing, then what is supposed to be done? Then some of the employees need to be removed or transferred to other units. Okay. If the situation is of overstaffing. If the organization is understaffed, then definitely they'll have to go on with the process of staffing. Okay. Further, they'll go on recruitment. Okay. And if it is optimally staffed, then there is no problem at all. It has to go on. Understood the point? Okay. So this analysis reveal about the overstaffing, understaffing, and optimally staffed. And according to that, the actions are planned. Alright. So what is the aim behind it? The aim behind this estimating manpower requirement is to have right number of people at right place. Okay. At right time, so that the organization may achieve its goal efficiently and effectively. Understood the point? Now let's move on to another step. So second step is recruitment. I already told you we'll have discussion on recruitment here in brief, but in detail later on in the further videos. Okay. So what is recruitment? So recruitment is a process of searching for prospective employees and encouraging them to apply for the vacant post in the organization. Understood the point? Okay. Recruitment is not new term for you. You must have seen the recruitment. Fine. In every organization, recruitment is very much popular. Through recruitment, the organization invites the application of the candidates. Okay. Because they need people. But who deserves it and who does not deserve it, that is another point. In another step, we will be doing that. But very first, we need to have the people. Fine. So recruitment aims towards creating a pool of qualified applicants, right? So that the selection of the most deserving candidate can be done. Understood the point? Okay. So the process of recruitment includes locating the potential candidates, or you can say locating the sources of potential candidates, right? Okay, for recruitment process, there are two kind of sources applied. One internal source, another external source. Internal, by the name it is clear that within the organization. So it is done through transfer or promotion, but there is a limited scope of that. But in external source, what happens? They have wider choice. Okay, they can get the fresh talent as well, right? So through which source the recruitment has to be done, that is also decided. Fine. One more thing I would like to explain here. In first step, we came to know about writing the job profile, job description, means what are the job, what are the duties and responsibilities of particular post, and what kind of specifications in terms of qualification, skills, experience are needed, right? So it's time to utilize the information which has been developed in estimating manpower requirement, which is the first step. Okay, for developing the situation vacant advertisement. I just write it down here. I think you are familiar with it. Okay, in your English subject, you must have studied it in your writing section. You must have written some situation vacant advertisement as well. Okay, so it is just similar to that. In situation vacant advertisement, what happened? You need to specify that how many kinds of employees for what post are required and what qualifications are needed. Understood? So for preparing that advertisement as well, okay, that kind of information is needed. But this process is done under recruitment. In recruitment, what happens? This advertisement is prepared. Okay, and after preparing this advertisement, this can be placed on the gate of the office, or it can be published in magazine, newspaper, or it can be displayed on the website or wherever it is necessary, so that the qualified employees can be contacted and they may know about it, right? Okay, so this is done under recruitment. As I told you that we'll have detailed discussion about recruitment later on. So now let's move on towards the another step. So the third step is selection. About selection also we'll have the discussion in brief only. Okay, because later on we need to have discussion about it in detail. Okay, itself is a big process. Fine. So selection means what? Under recruitment we created the pool of qualified applicants. Now out of those applicants, means out of that pool, the best person is selected, and this process is known as selection. Understood the point? Okay, but this, as I told you, that the process of selection is having various steps. Okay, and at every step what happened? The least qualified applicant is rejected. Okay, it is done in the similar way as you must be watching the reality shows. If any kind of singing or dancing competition is there, then the most deserving candidate keeps on getting forwarded and rest of them getting eliminated. Understood the point? The same procedure is done here as well. There are different processes of selection. Through those, the least qualified candidate is rejected and the more qualified and most qualified candidates are forwarded, and at last the most qualified candidates are selected. Understood? Okay, and when the employee is selected, then he or she is handed over the employment contract. Okay, so this is done under selection process. It ensures that the organization gets the most deserving and suitable candidate. That is why the different phases of selection are kept. Okay, one more thing I would like to tell you: as many employees are selected finally, okay, they also realize the seriousness of the organization, that if they are running these many steps, okay, or processes to select the best candidate, it means the organization is very much serious about your job. Okay, it also gives them a kind of feeling of prestige. Okay, so when they are selected to a particular organization, they should be feeling proud about it. Okay, so it is all about the selection process. Later on we will be having detailed discussion about it. Now let's move on to another step.